Good evening, folks. Thanks for coming in. Start of another week or end of another week. I don't know if it's Sunday. I don't know if Sunday's the start of a week or the end of a week. It's a kind of funny day in between, you know. But however, anyway, we're here, and tonight we are joined for the first time, and I'm going to say hopefully not the last time, by award-winning Josie Music Award artist. I got that right, didn't I?
Yes.
I got that right. And 12 times nominee rock artist, ghost storyteller, Ashley Bean. She's also the lead singer of the Ashley Bean band. So it's the first time she's going to be with us. Maybe the last, who knows. But thanks for joining us, Ashley.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's that's my other half is actually just sitting over there.
Oh.
It's saying hello. So Ashley is on. I found Ashley on TikTok. Not that she was lost or anything, you know, but I found her on TikTok, and her channel's quite interesting. I recommend you go and give her a wee look up because it's a kind of different approach. But we'll get into that, you know, in a wee kind of while. But I'd like to, you know, how you started out music-wise, because you're quite big in the sort of music field, and you've done really well for yourself, considering you're still, you know, at a young age, basically.
Yes.
What sparked your interest in music?
I would have to say it would definitely be hearing the stories about my great-grandfather. He was a bluegrass musician. He played at called the Rhyme back before it was the Grand Ole Opry. He played there with String Bean, and pretty well-known back in the time. String Bean was like a pretty well-known artist, bluegrass artist, and that kind of fueled my interest into playing music.
Mm-hmm. So how did the Ashley Bean band come along?
It kind of all started, I first started off playing in church when I was like about 11, 12 years old, and that kind of gradually went into like my uncle, he was in a cover band, and I kind of went around the bars with him, and that kind of got me started into the music scene area. And then, probably in my, I say 18, 19, 20 years old, that's when I decided to start writing my own music and kind of create my own vision of what I wanted it to be. That's how the Ashley Bean Band kind of just started.
I see. That's you created your own kind of style.
Yes, yeah. People really like how unique it is. I'm a big fan of Joan Jett. I really love her voice, her style, all that kind of stuff, and I really liked how she just was this powerhouse woman, just kind of just rolling into the rock and roll scene. And I really liked the way she wrote her music and stuff, and so I kind of gravitated towards that because I liked how unique she was. I'm like a big fan of Tom Petty. I'm a big fan of like Chris Cornell. I love a lot of artists that have that uniqueness about them, and that's what I wanted to be, was be unique and kind of stand out from the crowd.
To be there's Laura's, and Laura's one of ours. She just left here about half an hour ago. She was in here for a dinner tonight. Hey, Laura, doll. As you say, you wanted to be. I mean, I'm not a big expert in the music. I do like. I'm a massive Elvis fan. I like my country and western.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a big fan of gospel music as well. And you know, Meatloaf, Iron Maiden. I've got quite a universal range in music. My music teacher used to tell me. But my main passion is Elvis, and then it's gospel, country, and western.
Yes.
So I'm not a major expert on other fields of music, but I think today you get a lot of young people starting out, and they just try and copy, whether it's their idol or, you know, whoever. But I think it's better than if you create your own style.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. You kind of find yourself of who you are, and you start developing your own music and creating that different style, and it all fits. And so I like being unique and different, and I do get my influences from other artists and stuff like that, but I try to stay true to who I am.
But I think you enjoy it more as well, because I've got a wee question for Laura. I'll stick up in a second. I think if you try and copy somebody, you know, say, right, I'm going to start out in the music business and I want to be like, you know, Alan Jackson, for instance, you know, the country singer. And you kind of fail at that, you know, and you kind of leave yourself open for disappointment. But if you're following your own passion, your own style, then you're doing something that you love, not because you want to be somebody or like somebody, just because it's what you love doing, basically.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, I agree.
And well, in your opinion, do you think music is better now than when it was, say, the 50s, 60s, 70s, etc.?
I think it all depends on the genre. I think there's still really good music out there. But I really love the classics, the 50s, 60s, 70s. I mean, I think that helped define the music it is today.
I prefer music from back. Don't get, there's some modern songs, tunes, whatever that I do kind of like, but I prefer the music for way back. The 60s. Obviously, say I'm a big Elvis fan, so he covers quite a wide range of years, basically. But I like today's when musicians played their own played their instruments rather than relying on technology and stuff.
Yes, instead of the backing tracks and just relying just on a DJ to play the track and you're just lip singing to your own voice that you recorded in the studio. I like hearing, this is what I like about live artists that make mistakes, is that's reassuring to me that you are playing your instrument and you are actually singing. Like I hear you go off pitch for a phrase or two in your song. That is reassuring me that you were actually singing live and not relying on a backing track to make you sound just perfect.
Mm-hmm. And people. I mean, like I say, I'm going to use AC/DC as an example. They've been going for a good 50 years now, and these guys are late 60s, early 70s.
Yes.
And they were unique. They still are unique. And what's the same as yourself? I'm not saying you're kind of 60 or 70-year-old, but I mean, they're stuck to their style, and they still play. They don't rely on technology or anything. And I mean, they're touring again next year, North America, I think.
Yeah, they're great. They're a band that I would love to see live.
I would love to. I would love to go and see them, but I doubt they'll ever come to Glasgow or Kilmarnock, where I'm. I doubt you'll ever get AC/DC played. We're just a small town in the west coast of Scotland, so I don't know how you get Angus Young and Brian Johnson popping up here anytime soon. There's a lot of tribute bands about, but you get that with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But as I say, all these bands way back in the 70s, and the young people these days kind of put them down and stuff. Say, oh, they're crap. But you say, well, these guys have been going for decades.
Yes.
These guys are massive legends,
Yeah.
And I mean, to look at Angus Young, he's a wee small guy. He doesn't look very imposing or anything, but you think, this guy's a walking legend.
Yeah. Yes. Like a true rock star. I look back at these guys that have been touring for years. I mean, they had it hard back then, and it's. I have nothing but respect for musicians back then, and that are still going to this day.
Again, AC/DC did their Black Ice tour a few years back, and it was only meant to last so many months, but it lasted 2.5 years.
Yeah.
That was just demand for tickets. 2.5 years, these guys were on the road for constantly.
Yeah, that takes a lot, and being on the road is hard. So it takes a lot for them at their age to be still going and doing tours and shows and all that kind of stuff.
So do you do tours as well?
I'm more of like a songwriter, and I record music in the studio and I release it. I used to do a lot of shows and stuff like that, but ever since my back has been going downhill, I've just kind of been like, I can't really hold a guitar for 45 minutes anymore and hold heavy equipment on the stage anymore. So I'm like, oh, I'll just write music and record in the studio and I'll release it and stuff like that.
And it's obviously, as you say, about your back kind of thing, but and I don't think I could ever write a song. Me and an old friend of mine, I'm going back years and years and years ago, we used to do a show in Glasgow back in the early 80s. That's how old I am, It was a yearly show. It ran for a week in a theatre in Glasgow, and we tried to write us. But my friend, he very talented on the piano. For a young age, he could play anything blindfolded, and the guitar. And I used to go to his house every Monday night because he did a paper round on a Sunday, and a Monday night he'd go and collect the money in. So I would go and kind of be his bodyguard sort of thing, And we get back to this big, massive piano. No, a small bedroom, but this massive, big piano in this room kind of thing. And we tried to give it a go. He tried to teach me to play guitar, but I failed miserably. Just gave up, you know. And he said, why don't we write a song? Let's write a song. And I think we'd done about 2 verses and we gave up. We thought, no, just can't do it, you know. But it was the 80s. We were teenagers kind of thing. So we're going to write a song and we'll be big. You know, the usual kind of pipe dreams that you have. Laura's saying, I love gospel as well, with Belinda Carlisle, in my opinion, iconic, not only with her songs, but her performance on stage. I also love Crystal Gale. She has such a wonderful voice. I think a lot of these stars are forgotten these days.
Oh, what's that?
I think a lot of these stars are forgotten. I mean, Belinda Carlisle, Crystal Gale, she was massive, you know. But I think a lot of these people are kind of, I don't want to say dead and buried. That's not the right term, but they're kind of put to the side, you know. And I think all these people should be remembered.
Yeah, I've been noticing a shift with legends back in the day versus like, I think there was like an interview. I can't remember what the artist was getting in. It was more of a younger artist, and he's like, rock stars are kind of dead now. Like the rock stars back in the day were actual true rock stars, were today's music and society and stuff like that. We don't really see the whole rock star, like that big idol anymore. They're famous, but not like how the legends were back in the day. Like if you saw David Lee Roth walk down the street, you're like, that's David. And instead of saying, okay, that's Katy Perry. Hi, Katy.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely not the same as it was, you know, years ago. Laura's saying, I'm giving away my age now, but I can still rave with. I'm not going to tell you what age Laura is, you know, but because I'm not allowed to, you know, give away Laura's. Laura's she's a really good friend of ours, and she's practically family, basically. But I'm not allowed to talk about Laura's age or mention cabbages. Laura has a phobia about cabbages. That useless information there, but I had to get it. Sorry, Laura doll, I had to say it. You know, so it's out there now. So I need to ask you, Ashley, what's your opinion on Elvis? You're on TikTok, and you know yourself. He's probably one of the biggest names on TikTok. There's loads and loads of videos with Elvis on TikTok. Some are slating him, but a lot of them are, you know, really, really good. What's your opinion on Elvis? I'm just being nosy.
I love Elvis. Like my aunt, she actually used to follow Elvis around back when Elvis was big and got started up. Like she actually personally knew Elvis, and there was a time I was really little, and she had all these photos up around her mirror of her and Elvis together. And I was like, how do you know Elvis? She goes, I used to be friends with him back in the day. And I absolutely love Elvis's music. I think it's so classic, and it's so soothing, but he's got that rock in him, but it's got this country. It's like he can just cross over, and I love all of his music.
I just what you were saying about being unique. Elvis was unique as well. Don't worry, folks. I'm not going to start ranting on about it because, you know, going on and on about Elvis. Don't worry, but Elvis was unique because, you know, back then, 1955, 56 kind of time, rock and roll was dying out because Bill Haley refused to change. Big Haley. Bill Haley was the kind of biggest name back then. You know, obviously he had many other artists, and so I think the American youth were kind of getting fed up, bored, and so the interest was dying. But then Elvis came along and he took, you know, like gospel and rhythm and blues and put them together and invented his own style, basically.
Yes, it was very unique, and that's what definitely made Elvis pop. Everybody just flocked to him.
It was an overnight, you know, it was an overnight superstar. There was a lot of people didn't like him, mind you know, because he's wiggling the hips and all that kind of stuff.
That comes with the territory.
But that's it, you know. And family, you couldn't do without me. An integral part of your family, dear, and you can shove your cabbages. They give me the fear. Thanks for that, dear Laura. Always nice to get a nice wee comment. I mean, you know, he was, I mean, the church was against him, and you know, all these different human rights groups, all the rest of it, they were all against him. The police tried to shut down the shows, and you know, everything else, just because that he moved when he sang. But Elvis says he didn't realise he was doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He went with music. Like I will do that sometimes. I feel the music and I go with it. And that's what he was doing. He was feeling the music. He could feel it in his soul.
And you could see the sort of natural rhythm that the guy had. But you know, but coming back to you, I say I'm not going to go on about, because I could go on all night about Elvis. I refuse to. We actually did a show last year. Obviously, we're a paranormal and history channel, but I like to every now and again throw in the odd show that's nothing to do with what we do, basically. You know, mix it up a wee bit. And I did a show on Elvis with David Espinosa and Craig Aarons and Melanie Wade, who's an Elvis kind of expert, massive fan. And what's what I say now? But Elvis wasn't just a singer. Elvis was a performer, a great one that captivated his audience because he sang with passion and soul and he put emotion out. That's very true. You know, last time I was him, it was always said many, many times that for the minute he walked on stage, Elvis had the audience right there.
Yes.
In his hand. And he could have stood on that stage for an hour and a half and no sang, and the audience would still have loved it.
Yeah, he had a presence with him when he stood on stage.
There was actually a TikTok I was watching a couple of days ago, and it shows you a couple of clips of Elvis coming on stage, and it says, you know, only one man knew how to make an entrance.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, you know, that's very, very true. But coming back to yourself, because you're our guest, no Elvis, you know, as much as that'd be great, but you're our guest, you know. Your Josie Music Award, what's the Josie Music Award?
The Josie Music Awards, it's based out of Nashville, Tennessee, is where they have it. They actually have it at the Grand Ole Opry, and it goes on every year. It's just kind of like the Grammys, I guess you could say. If you watch the Grammys, that's how it's done. You have like a red carpet event. You take photos, you do interviews. You sit next to other artists from around the world. There's been people that have came from Australia to Ireland, England, to here in the United States. And we all just kind of sit down and we support each other. We watch performances, and we get nominated. If you get your name called, you've won. So it's a pretty cool experience.
So you won?
Yes.
One of them, is that right?
Yes.
How did that feel? Because as you were saying just near the start, you know, you want to be kind of unique, create your own style, which you've been really successful in doing, and writing your own material and stuff. How did it feel when you realize, you know, when your name was called out? You know, I mean, I've seen them on TV, the award ceremonies. When your name was called out, I just, you know, they get through your head, well, I won this award because of who I am.
Yeah.
What I've done.
When it happened, I was actually not expecting it, because like how they have their judging and their panel and stuff, it's you're going up against like other artists that are really good, and then your chances of actually getting nominated out of hundreds of thousands of people that they choose for you just to be nominated, and then you're going up against maybe 20 other people, and for your name to be called, it's like, oh, I always thought like it's never going to happen, and it happened, and I was like, did they just call my name?
Did you have a I need to ask you this. I've watched these awards, you know, it's usually the Hollywood ones and stuff like that, and you get the stars, you know, Jack Nicholson, whoever it might be, come up and they'll say, I've not prepared anything, you know, because I wasn't expecting this award tonight.
Yes, yeah.
Did you have a speech written out, and just in case kind of thing?
I actually didn't have one. I really wanted it to be more coming from me instead of like writing it down and kind of be rehearsed. I wanted it to be more coming from me. So I did not write one down. I wanted it to be fresh and out of my mind and just be real with people when I was on stage.
I can say I've seen many of them, and I said, well, I wasn't expecting to be up here tonight, and so I've not wrote anything, and it's tough, you know, but thanks very much to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And did you? Sometimes I ask the most silliest questions. Ashley, you know, you'll find out about me. You obviously in your wee speech you were thanking people. Did you forget to thank anybody? Was there anybody you thought, you know, later on? Oh, I never thanked. so and
Oh,
so?
I
One of
think
the oops moments.
my definitely my producer. I meant to thank him. I did obviously. I thank God. I thank my family, my friends, the fans who supported me and stuff like that. And one person I forgot to thank was my producer for helping me write the music. I was like, oh, I completely forgot to put him in.
I had to ask you that, but it must have gave you this, a sense of accomplishment. You
Yes,
know,
yeah,
you know. I don't mean for the aspect that you're up there and you're like, oh, I'm better than all of yous because I've got this award, but the fact that the sense of accomplishment that you'd won through your own efforts, you being you.
yes. And I've always looked at it as if you're even nominated, even these people are looking at you. I feel like that is a win. Even if you don't win the actual award, the fact that you're nominated shows that you're a winner.
And as you say, there's people, artist groups from all over the globe come to it,
Yes.
and you're kind of stand to be nominated 12 times as well.
Yeah, I was not expecting that every single time. I'm like, oh wow, I must be doing something right then.
But obviously you're doing something right, and it must give you that. Does it give you that extra? Because know that you've got quite a powerful drive just now, anyway, or you wouldn't be where you are. But does it give you that extra? Right? What's the next step? Where can I go for here?
Yeah, yes and no. Yeah, I would say I kind of just stick to my writing my music stuff. I try to stay true to who I am. So every once in a while, I'll do like a cover song and stuff like that to kind of show like artists that I like and stuff like that. But I kind of just write my music and record it, release it, and let others listen to it and try to connect it with other people with what I'm saying in my songs and stuff and see if they connect with what I'm saying with.
Have you ever covered an Elvis one? Actually, I'm going to ask you that.
I haven't, but I've one of my favorite ones that is that he sings is "Can't Help Falling in Love with You." I think is the title.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a pretty song. I love it. So
That actually blew away, and that's where he always wound up his concerts with. That was always his final song. No, because I've watched again, just very very quickly on Elvis. I've watched a lot of people that covered the songs, and
yeah,
some people just destroy them.
yes, yeah. There's some people that destroy him, but there's other people that will kind of take his song and like change it in their way that will fit their voice, their style, and they do it beautifully.
Hmm. And it really grinds my gears when you get somebody and they're just, you know, either big as mistake, they try to sound like him.
Yes. Yeah, like that's what with some people it's like don't try to sound like I know there are people out there that they can't help how they sing. They just happen to sound like a particular artist and there's nothing you can do about that, but there's the people out there that purposely try to sound like other artists. It's like why are you trying to be them? You're not them. You are you. You need to stick to being you. You can sing that song but sing it as you and not them.
Exactly, because obviously, it's just, if they're singing that song like whoever, say Elvis, whoever it might be,
Yeah.
and they fall flat in their face, then that could be their, whatever career over that they might have had in front of them. As you
Well,
say, sing it as you because people can
yeah.
appreciate that. That's what
Yeah.
people want.
Yeah, I think if you were to sing um, by who you are and sing it the way that you have your voice, the tone, all that kind of stuff, I think people would appreciate and respect it more than you trying like, well, I'm going to try to sound like Elvis and the way that he sings and his tone, and it's like you're going to butcher it more.
I've heard, I've heard a few songs people sang, and they've just totally, annihilated it.
Yeah,
And I'm a very, very passionate Elvis fan, and you just like, just no, don't do it. But then I've heard the odd one, and they're absolutely spot on.
yes.
And some of them are hard to tell the kind of difference.
Yeah,
It makes you think for a wee second. Is that how you need to listen over? That's no Elvis. That's some other guy.
yeah.
So what's next for the Ashley Bean Band? I mean, actually, sorry, who's in the Ashley Bean Band? Sorry, I should have asked you that earlier on.
Well, I just doing my own thing. I kind of just um playing my music, play some cover songs. I'll share my album and some of the songs are there, kind of tell what some of the music is and stuff like that. And I've been really just, gravitating towards the ghosts and paranormal and stuff like that. And I've been finding out that a lot of musicians are really into the paranormal. So that kind of just all meshed together really well.
Does the paranormal influence your songwriting?
Some of my experiences that, I would say that spiritually, yes.
It's got quite an influence on what you put down in paper, basically.
Yeah.
I want to move on to here's to say, Loris, as you said earlier, you said about thanking God, so I'm presuming you believe in God. Do you find prejudice from others who believe in God regarding your belief in the paranormal?
I'm the type of person that I don't judge, even though I do believe in God and stuff like that. I'm a very laid back person. I'm a very open person, and I come with open arms to anybody. So, and nothing ever bothers me.
It's because I know over here the church takes a kind of dim view or they used to. They're kind of starting to accept it more over here, but they used to take a dim view of people who invest like we do, doing investigations.
Yeah.
Because you're not supposed to try and talk to the dead and stuff like that. So is it the same kind of over across the pond for?
It kind of reminds me of like a time where Marilyn Manson, he's a known Satanist, and Alice Cooper, who is a Christian, but they're both really good friends, and they both have talked about religion and stuff, but they both don't bash each other or anything. They're open to each other, and they both love each other, and they both respect each other. So I don't think anybody should be judging people on what they believe and stuff like that. And I mean, Alice and Marilyn Manson are good friends, and they're total polar opposites.
Marilyn Manson, he's quite a strange one. I don't mean that disrespectful, but just even I saw quite a few photos of him a long time ago, and you're kind of thinking, it's your own thing.
He's a character.
Get on. So so you've got quite a big following on TikTok with your paranormal stuff. What brought you into the paranormal?
It was definitely my own childhood experiences into my adulthood. Starting off, I grew up in a small town, just 30 minutes west from here where I live now. My parents still live in the haunted house that I grew up in. The house was built in, I believe, 1898 or 1899. It was built right around that time. We did come across a photo that was from like the 1920s. There was like a boy in the photo and stuff like that. And we found out it was through one of my friends' like Ouija board. She decided, I was like 12 years old when she brought it over, and I didn't know what Ouija boards were. Like I didn't understand them, and I didn't really know what to expect. I'm like, okay, we're supposed to be talking to the dead? I don't know. And being 12 years old, you really don't know much of. All you know is being a kid. That's really all you know.
That's it. You just want to be a kid. You say a kid,
Yeah. And so we started communicating with this boy named Devin, who had passed away in the house, and he died at the age of 12 years old. We found out he died in a house fire, and then funny thing is, we have an attic that is my sister's closet. There was a opening, and we opened it up, and sure enough, the inside of the attic was all charred, like it had been caught on fire at one time. So that kind of confirmed everything with that, and just continue on growing up in that house. A lot more things escalated, especially after we got hit with a tornado back in 2010. It really kind of my house I grew up in actually got hit by the tornado. Didn't knock it down, but it moved a wall, and debris was all, and glass was all through the house and stuff like that. And activity kind of started like getting more active in the house, like something like I would say between 8 to 9 feet tall, black mass, 3 feet wide, would start appearing in the house. And it started in my little brother's room, and it kind of would shuffle around at the end of the bed. And he said one day it put its hand, I guess you could say, on his back, and it paralyzed him. And then over time, this black mass started taking shape as a human, like it was gaining strength of some sort.
What was it? Is that thunder or something? Did you hear that?
That's weird. I'm really close to an airport and the National Guard Army base, so it's like probably a fighter jet.
Do you get that often?
Yes, yes. I'm like I guess a 10-minute drive from their closest airport, and there's an army base right next to the airport. So we get a lot of activity with fighter jets, commercial planes, stuff like that.
Oh no, that guy I was telling just quickly. That guy I was telling you about trying to write the song. He lives in London, in the west end of London, and he's near Heathrow. He's writing the flight path to Heathrow, and Heathrow's the busiest airport in the UK. I don't know if you've ever been over to London or whatever, but if you
I was
stand,
there like back in August of last year. I was over in London.
oh, you were,
Yeah.
Oh. What did you think it?
I loved it. I'm huge on history, so we went to Windsor Castle, we went to the Tower of London, and we went through a lot of old historical places. St. Paul Cathedral. Went through a lot of the old places that I love.
I love it. I've been in London many times. We're big Tudor fans. We've covered a lot. In fact, we're running a series now with a lady called Tracy about Henry VIII and his wives and stuff. I love London for the Tower of London and the Hampton Court Palace as well.
Oh,
You know, it's obviously it's Henry VIII's one of Henry VIII's former palaces, but it's a fantastic building.
Yeah.
But no, London's. Traffic's a bit of a nightmare, but the actual city itself, is just the sheer history. But I was saying he lives in the flight path of Heathrow, and if you stand outside his house, it's like 24 hours a day. You can see the planes coming in.
Yep.
And it's constant with him. And I say, how can you live here? He says, after a while, you switch off.
Yeah, you get used to it pretty much.
Because there's no kind of break. You see one plane coming in, and there's another one right behind it.
Yep. Yeah.
You think, I just couldn't live like that. But we digressed. We get back to the paranormal side. Very useless information with the London airport folks. I do apologise about that. So the tornado kind of shifted the house a wee bit, and this is when this, entity, spirit, whatever you want to call it, started to make itself known. Do you think maybe this is just my kind of idea? Might be right out the window, I don't know. However, Laura's put up another comment. 2 seconds, I'll put that up. As a God believer myself, I found that people judge you before knowing or finding out about the paranormal, and that's one of the reasons I left church. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Do you think maybe this, whoever it was, this spirit appeared because the house had moved?
It's really hard to say because the town is very old itself. My parents live across the street from an old hospital. It's now called Elm Haven, but back in the day, from what we heard from the locals, it used to be an old hospital that they had like hundreds or thousands of people who died of tuberculosis back in the day. It went from being a hospital to a retirement home, and I'm not really sure how long it was a hospital before it turned into a retirement home, and now it's an apartment, like a really up-class apartment place. It's really nice, and you could see by pictures of it that you could tell it was like a small hospital back in the day. Like it's not like a ginormous building, but it's a good size, like I would say a large apartment like complex. That is supposedly is extremely haunted from what we've heard from the locals and people who have stayed there, lived there and stuff like that. And there's just been a lot of activity with people like back in the woods. There's some creepy activity that people like to partake in that's about a couple blocks away from my parents' house. So it could be a combination of a lot of things.
Just all coming together. I like how you say back in the day quite a lot. We actually use that over here as well. It's quite a common saying, And we always wonder what day, when was the day, say, back in the day. Say, well, when was back in the day? Right. I notice you say it a lot. So, I mean, moving on to your TikTok channel, you've got a massive following on TikTok. What gave you, as I said before we came on live, it's how do you put it? As I said, you know, people sometimes are very reserved about talking about the paranormal, you know, in case they get, you know, slandered or whatever. Your channel gives them the. I'll let you tell people about your channel actually instead of me. It's your channel.
Yeah. 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 I just over the years, like I've always been judged, and just I have gotten to the point where I don't care what people think about me anymore, and they can judge me all they want. And I've decided, like, I'm just going to start telling my story. I'm not afraid to tell what I've experienced anymore. And I don't think anybody else should be afraid to share theirs as well. So if they want to come on to and leave a comment or send me a message, I'm all ears.
And as I said, it's quite a good idea because you ask a question and then you leave it open.
Yes. Yeah. And give people that opportunity to not feel judged. You're not going to be made fun of or anything like that. It's to give you a platform to say, this is what happened to me.
Exactly. You know, that you could get some little lady or man, you know, whoever, some individual sitting at home who's, you know, something has happened to them, but there's nobody who say, well, I don't want to tell anybody because it'll maybe put me away somewhere quiet.
Yeah, I'm crazy.
You know?
And you're not. My TikTok started blowing up and over thousands of comments were coming in. It seems like people were hungry to tell their story and didn't know how. And I guess I kind of came along and was like, here, I'm here to listen. I'm all ears. So share.
Tell me a story. And it could be that stepping stone that they needed, that wee nudge.
Yeah.
You know,
they needed that be reinsured that somebody has experienced that, and they're not here to judge them. They're all here to give them some sympathy and compassion and be there for them, and no slandering, no making fun of, because I don't judge people. Like, you know, things happen. It is what it is. And I don't judge people for what they look like, what they do in life. It's life.
I totally agree. Everybody's an individual, you know, and we don't, you know, well, I might judge people if they touch my favourite crisps or potato chips, as you call them, you know, whatever sweet stuff, you know, steal a Mars bar that was meant for me, you know, then I will judge people, you know, if they get into my fridge and take something that belongs. Other than that, but I think your channel's good for the fact that, you know, it gives these people a voice, you know, but it also lets them know that there's there's a lot of other people out there that have experienced maybe not the same thing, but they've experienced something as well.
Yes.
You know,
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like, I've just seen all these people come in and telling their story, or what happened to them, or a family member, or what happened when they grew up in a house, or went to a cemetery, or whatever it may be. It's just it's good to see people kind of come together and support each other.
And it's also a good. That's one of the things we love about the paranormal community and doing these podcasts as well. You get to meet a lot of people, and through your channel, you know, somebody, you know, see you ask, you know, I wrote some of the, because you've quite a bit on your channel, so I had to write some of them down, you see. So say, for instance, you know, one is, do you believe in reincarnation? You know, and somebody comments, then somebody might comment back to that person's comment, and so they start chatting.
Yes, yeah, I've seen that where, like, people are chatting with each other, and which I think is awesome. Like, I'll ask them a question, they'll comment on it saying that I was a soldier back in the day. And I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. And I'll ask, like, oh, what war did you think you were from? And, like, I'm kind of more drawn to this. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Then you'll have other people in the comments, oh, I was the same way. Like, I'm drawn to that time period too. And it's pretty good to see people come together and support each other, and they're not afraid to do it. They're just engaged.
And, you know, another thing that's good for, and people might think this is nuts, but however, it might be the only contact these people have. You know, they might be housebound, or, you know, whatever they might be, but they've got a place where they can go and they can chat, you know, regularly and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
you know,
like, I try to make my channel, like, I'm not going to judge you. You know, I'm not going to judge you for what you've been through or anything like that. We've all been through things. Something, a quote that I have seen, and I try to live by that as best as I can, is that even though you could be going through something hard in your life, always remain kind to others because you never know what somebody else is going through in their life.
Aye, just I've got a comment for Laura. I'll stick up in a question for Laura. Sorry, but as you say, it's something you led by. I'm going to come back to Elvis very, very briefly. One of the things that I think is very, very true to life and people should realise more is, I don't know if you've ever heard the song "Walk a Mile in My Shoes." He done it a lot in Vegas, and he used to say that, you know, he'd heard a man said one time, "You've never walked in that man's shoes or saw things through his eyes." I don't know if you've heard that or not. No.
It sounds familiar. I don't know if I've heard it said it that way, but it sounds familiar.
It basically goes, "You've never walked in that man's shoes or saw things through his eyes, or stood and watched with helpless hands as the heart inside you dies. So help your brother along the way, no matter where he starts. For the same God that made you made him too. These
Yep.
men with broken hearts," basically. And that's, you know, that's something similar to what you're saying, and that's kind of popped into my head there. And it's true, you know, if you can help somebody out, then fine. Even if it's talking, it doesn't need to cost you anything. Even if it's a chat or whatever. And that's the other good thing about what your channel brings to people, gives them that platform, as you say. Have you ever been to a paranormal investigation? How did you feel? Or if you haven't, would you consider it?
I've never been actually on an investigation. I wouldn't mind doing it. I think it would be interesting to check out, experience, learn more and stuff like that. I have visited places that are haunted, I guess you could say. Didn't really investigate it, but I did feel like I live about 10 minutes away, obviously by the airport. This place used to be called the Bartonville Insane Asylum. The main building has been knocked down, but it's like over 100-year-old. It was like over 100-year-old building, and patients were mistreated there. There are, I don't know if you know the famous Travel Channel show Ghost Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
They actually came out to investigate the Bartonville Insane Asylum, and they caught a lot of really creepy stuff. And there are still some outer buildings that are still standing. I do believe they do like ghost tours, or like it's part of like a haunted attraction. And the cemeteries are still present. And I went there with my boyfriend one time because I'm a huge history buff and I just love history. And we went to one cemetery, and you could just feel like depression, sadness, because these patients were very mistreated, like pretty much tortured back in the day. And then we went to another site because there's 5 cemeteries. There's one cemetery that you can't find because there's no tombstones, except the graves where the bodies lay are like sunk in. That's all. That's how you know it's an actual cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this one area that we went to is known as the grave digger, and he's been known to be seen leaning up against a tree because he used to work as the grave digger there, and would dig up the holes for the patients to be buried. And the Ghost Adventures actually caught him on camera. They actually saw him. I think he was walking through the woods, and they actually caught the grave digger's spirit. And we were sitting, my boyfriend and my little sister, we were over by where the grave digger, where he's known to be seen. And I saw this mist kind of manifest over this tombstone. And my boyfriend happened to say, "I bet you guys don't know where the grave digger is even buried." And I said, "Oh, no, he's buried over here." And I started walking towards where he was actually buried. And that's when my boyfriend and my sister goes, "How did you know he was buried here?" I'm like, "Well, he manifested over his own grave, and he actually showed me where he was buried."
Wow. You know, and it's things like that. You know, I mean, what do your TikToks say? You know, do you believe in the afterlife?
I do,
You know.
because I have seen some like my grandmother. She had passed, and she had came back, and she spoke to me 30 minutes after she had passed. I have seen like an actual gateway into heaven itself, where it was on 4th of July. This is back when I lived at my parents' house, and we were heading down to watch the fireworks, and it's called Sweetwater Park, and I I guess 20 feet past the train tracks into Sweetwater Park, and something told me stop and look up. And when I did, I saw an opening open up because it was a very cloudy 4th of July, and the clouds had opened up into a perfect circle, and I had seen, I guess you could say, a cliff type rock formation in the sky. It was like as if I was looking up in a valley up towards the mountains, and it kind of created a circle, and the rock was like a tan sand color, and it was a clear blue sky on the other side. And I'm from Illinois, and we don't have mountains. We don't, we're more, farmland, and we're nowhere near like the Rocky Mountains or anything like that. So there's no mountains in Illinois for that to happen. It's like this is how far it was up in the sky, I guess you could say, was higher up than the Rockies could reach. So this was definitely something from like another dimension, like definitely I would say heaven, because of the peace that I felt.
Yeah, a lot of people, I've asked the question on their page as well before, when they talk about having to immediately look up to the sky, and I say, I love gospel music, and they always refer to, mansion in the sky, there's a better home awaiting in the sky, the different songs, basically. And you think, well, why do people look up to the sky? Because, when you look up, you see the sky, and then there's the atmosphere, blah, 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 then there's outer space kind of thing. And then you see, heaven's up there, hell's down there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and I'm not dissing the belief, it's not dissing, that's what people always get their own beliefs. I always believe that, no, it's not I don't believe in God. I believe that, there is, a God. But I don't know if it's, my kind of opinion is that when we pass over, there definitely is life after death. There's something else. Yeah. I mean, there's far, far too much evidence out there to say, right, that's it, lights out, nothing. But I've always felt that we're free to come and go, once we pass over. And the lights refer to quite a lot, and obviously there's no one into the light yet. But I believe that when you go into the light, you always wonder what's on the other side of that light.
Yes. Like it reminds me of a time before my grandmother had passed. She had open heart surgery, and she did die on the table. They brought her back, and she said what she saw was my grandfather standing at the end of her bed, because he passed away back in '96, and she had heart surgery. Oh, it had to been like early 2000s or something, mid 2000s, when she had her open heart surgery. And she said she saw him at the end of the bed, and he was wearing his favorite yellow shirt, button-up shirt. And she said she saw somebody else in the distance. She believes it was her mother. Like what had happened was she was trying to reach out to him, like try to grab for him. And his reaction was just shaking his head no. And he kept stepping back further and further into like a light, or like into somewhere else, basically telling it's not your time. I'm not here to, I'm here with you, but I'm not here to take you back home. And when and then when she was getting ready to pass in 2017, that's when she started calling my grandfather's name out again. I was like, this is it. And she did tell me 2 weeks before she had passed that my grandfather came to visit her, and he says, I'm here to bring you home.
I mean, it's quite a common thing. It happened with my dad. He passed in 1995. I think it's common. I think another question you feel ordered. Hold on. We are taught there's a heaven and hell, nothing else. Would you believe happens when we leave a earth and take our next journey?
Oh, I do believe that there is a heaven and a hell, simply just because like I have seen a lot of evidence of my own personal experiences, obviously with my grandmother passing, with her, talking about my grandfather being there. But also I've been I have seen angels and stuff like that. I've had a dream of Jesus himself, and he came to me. And so I do believe that there is a place for us to go. I just had like visions and stuff like that of like the end times, and I've had where I have seen like actual people's souls, and our souls are so powerful and bright. It's like the brightest light I've ever seen. So I do believe, like, we are this body that we have is it might die and rot, but we will still live on. We have this powerful spirit within us that will just continue on. And I believe, we have a place to go that's a home calling for us.
I just, it's. I totally agree with that because, I'll come back to that we said, but obviously, when people are near their time, there's hundreds people, cases people reported, that their loved ones come. Happened with my dad. He was saying my his mum, came to his bedside and stuff like that, and he could see her and what have you. And, maybe one or two cases you could say, well, doubtful. But there's that many cases report the same thing. That a loved one has seen their mum, their dad, their wife, whoever it might be, have come to meet them, to take them, take them home. But when you're saying, this body rots, it's going to sound bizarre probably, but I think when you look, when my dad passed, I missed it. I had to go back up I missed it by about 10 minutes or something, but I had to go back up to the hospital, and he was still lying in the hospital bed, and I was looking at him, but it's just this feeling you get that that's not my dad. Mm-hmm. You knew he was gone elsewhere.
Yes. Yeah. You definitely felt their presence was gone. I like my grandmother. I knew when she passed a half hour, I heard my voice, or she called out my name and I heard her voice, and I called back out to her. And basically she was telling me that because she sounded healthy. She sounded alive, very well. And it's like she was telling me that she was heading home, and that was it.
I'll see. Do you believe that, I've always believed that our loved ones they're always around us, mm-hmm. At a distance.
Yeah. And yes, I actually have a story about that. My great grandmother passed away in 98. So I was born in 92. So I got to actually get to know my great grandmother very well. And she passed, I believe, in 98. And we were at the funeral home, and my grandmother grabbed one of those balloons that somebody had brought with flowers, and a balloon was attached to it. And my grandmother was just giving away all the flowers except for this balloon. She's like, okay, I'll just take this balloon home. I stayed with my grandmother for like a couple weeks. We would be like during the summer and stuff like that, and we would stay with my grandmother over the summer, and this balloon would follow her everywhere it went. It got like, it would come down low to her eye level. She would be sitting down in her chair watching like a soap opera or something like that, and it would come over and sit by her. She'd get up to go to the bathroom, walk down the hall, and it would get up and it would start following her, and then it would come back. And she's like, it did this for weeks until it defeated. And I witnessed this entire time I was there. I'm like, there's something guiding this balloon, like as if my great grandmother was there saying, you took care of me. I'm in a better place, and I'm just here, to thank you, to watch over you.
I can imagine that. Imagine how they felt with the balloon constantly following them. But it is reassuring, and I do believe that our loved ones are around us all the time, but they won't interfere. Starting on the free will kind of aspect of it, they won't interfere. Yeah. But I think there comes a time, I've asked a few people this, and I want your thoughts on that, Ashley, that, sometimes everybody in life at one time or another has some kind of problem, issue, worry, disaster, whatever, and they can't see a way out of it, But then, suddenly at the midnight hour, a solution suddenly comes, where it pops into their head or whatever, they suddenly find a way out of it. They might have been stressing for a week, a month over this, whatever it is, but then it suddenly comes. Do you think that is their loved one, finally stepping in and saying, right, you've been worried about this, you're totally stuck, here's a wee nudge, here's a wee push?
I do believe that. I do have another story about that. It has to do with my boyfriend's grandmother, who had passed away, and his grandfather had passed away, and his mom and sister were coming in to kind of repaint the inside of their house, and they were looking for a rolling pin to start using to putting up new paint on the walls. And they were looking all over for one, and they were looking in a particular area where there was no paint roller anywhere. And they left, came back, and then there was a paint roller sitting right where they had just looked. And then my boyfriend's father said, "Oh my God, that's my mom. Like, she knows, she was out looking for you guys, and she wanted to help out painting the house."
Yeah. She wanted the job done, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely like it was a issue. They couldn't find a paint roller, and then one appeared.
It's just kind of last minute, it's as if they're saying, right, we're not allowed to interfere, that's another question I'm going to ask you anyway. But I need to step in and help them, help them out of this. Do you think I've heard this a few times that there's certain rules when you pass over that there's got to be certain rules that you have to follow and stuff like that. Do you believe that? Do you believe there's a certain list of rules somewhere that says that you can do this and you can't do that or whatever?
And that was really hard to say because, I mean, like, I think if something's trying to warn you or trying to save you, which I've seen in my comments where somebody I've talked about the afterlife where somebody had said like their grandmother warned them not to go drive to the grocery store because something bad was happening. Then they find out later on the news that there was this huge accident on the road they were going to take at the time. And I think, they can intervene every once in a while to help protect their loved ones and to guide them into making the right decisions. But yeah, it's a really good one.
I've always just feel we're a basic team, and I say basic, I don't mean kind of I mean just we're not into the scientific side and all that. I know there's a lot of people out there that are no disrespect to them. We don't do that because we're the kind of frame of mind. It's spirit is simple. It's basic. They're just spirits like us. They just don't have a physical body. There's no need to get down this big scientific road and. You get all these people, clowns out there, say, I proved that the afterlife is not non-existent, or they'll say the other thing, we can prove scientifically. Right? I'm not interested in that,
Yeah.
We're not caring about that. We just want to go, and we're not here to prove the, saying, well, we want to prove the paranormal's real. We have a belief, same as yourself, that it is real. But we go out to try and just communicate with spirit.
Yes, like I have some like ER nurses talk about where they've seen people pass and they're doing everything that they can scientifically to bring this person back, but none of the machines or anything science-wise could bring this person back. And when they come back, like this person should be brain dead. This person should be a vegetable after what they've been through. Like, and that's when like doctors and ER nurses will say, well, this is a miracle from God. Like this is out of our hands. This is beyond science. Like we can't explain this. And I've heard this from nurses and doctors and stuff like that.
They shouldn't. Sarah, my parents, Sarah Grand, she passed away in January, and she was something similar. She took ill. She was in the hospital over Christmas and New Year time, but then she was home. But she had carers coming in the last two. Sarah's just saw there. That's why I keep looking over. It was the last 2 or 3 weeks. About 2 or 3 weeks, she'd carers would come in, and they couldn't understand why she was still here, because of the condition she was in. They say their heartbeat was still strong, but everything else says we don't know why she shouldn't be here.
Yeah, and they can't explain it, and that's when they're like, "This is a miracle from God." What else could it be?
Well, everybody used to joke, she's always been stubborn. She's hanging on. She's determined. She's no move. All the kind of usual stuff. It cheers up the situation as well. The old bugger. She's always been all days stubborn. She'll not go anywhere. But as you say, these doctors, nurses, etc., they can't explain it. And same here. The nurses will say, "Well, she should not be here."
Yeah.
But she's still ticking away, basically. But sadly, she passed. A wee while kind of after that. But I mean, the whole heaven and hell aspect, I do believe that there is demons, but there's some, in some kind of realm,
Yeah.
Somewhere. But you know, as you know, in the paranormal, everything's demonic these days. You
Yeah.
know, it's just everything. You know, your frying pan blows up. Somebody calls it a demon, stuff like that. You know, your fridge does the work. Oh, it's a demon did that. Demon broke you. Oh, that kind of thing. But I believe when we pass, it's a kind of funny thing, but you know, because you have this image in your head. You know, when we say, well, when we pass over, when we're in spirit, do we have arms and do we think we have arms and legs?
Well, from obviously seeing my grandmother's experience when she passed the first time, she did see my grandfather's whole like arms, legs, the way that he was on Earth. But he looked younger, he looked healthy, he just looked like he was when they first had met. I think we get like when we pass, and if we're going to heaven, they always say God gives you a new body when you're in heaven, and I think spirits that are here that are stuck here, they're still in their form that they had passed away and they just have not crossed over yet. So I still think we still look the way that we are when we pass until we're into heaven and we get our new body.
Get a new, so this one will be gone, get a new one, maybe Tom Cruise look alike or Brad Pitt look alike or something, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe says some of that. But you know, as you say, your spirits that are stuck here, this is another thing quite common over here. People, you know, they get into these houses, say, well, you know, we're going to send a spirit to the light. You know, do you think spirits should have that? I personally feel the spirits should have the freedom where they want to stay or go.
Yes, like with Devin, the spirit that lived in my parents' house after the tornado, we had felt such a peace in the house. I do believe there was some sort of like a protection of like angels present or something because the peace was so divine. And we had asked him like, if you are stuck and if you want to go, you can go. And that was the last that we had seen from him. So I feel like he liked the family from what I heard through the Ouija board that he liked our family and stuff like that. But I think there was a part of him missing, and I think he needed to be with his family, and so we just guided him with that. Like if you want to go with him, you go right on ahead. If you don't want to stay, fine by me.
I know 100%. I think they should be, you know, it's because I mean, I've watched some TV say, right, we're going to this house tonight and we're going to cleanse the house. There's a spirit in here. We're going to get rid of, you know, it. They always, this is another thing, and I don't know if it annoys you, but they term spirit as, a lot of teams would refer to spirit as it, but it's no, it's them. You know, it's the same when you watch investigations, say, well, there's something over in that corner. There's no, it's someone over in that corner. Because that something is still a person, basically, you know. But it's when they say, right, we're going to this house, we're going to clear it, etc. And you think, just don't bother, just leave them alone.
If they still can choose. I believe you still have free will until you have crossed over, and if they choose to stay here, they choose to stay here. They choose, I want to cross over. Okay, if it's something evil, I think it needs to go and not harm people and harm maybe keeping a spirit stuck in its area or stuck here.
I know you, if it's something, you know, as you say, evil or something really negative and is causing harm to maybe individuals and stuff like that, then, you know, by all means, you know, but if it's just go. Go. But if it's just a harmless spirit that likes wandering about, you know, because we all know, you know, you get spirits that they don't lose their sense of humour. They like to play games. They like to have a laugh. They might like to sit and listen into your conversations. You know, and that's why we take a kind of relaxed approach to investigations. You know, because there are teams out there and they're very formal and very. What is your name? Why are you here? That kind of stuff. You think, don't talk to them like that. Just talk normal. They're people, for God's, you know. Just you know,
maybe instead of like, what's your name? Like, well, my name is Ashley. You know, nice to meet you. What's your name? Kind of have sort of conversation with them.
That's it, because you might be the first person that they've spoke to in 200-300 years.
Yeah.
You know, even though they don't understand the concept of time. Well, as far as we know, spirit doesn't have that same concept of time as we do in the physical. But you might be we've done a few locations here in Scotland, and it's nobody's ever done them, and you know, they're kind of out of their way locations, just small ones, and we've had loads of activity.
Yeah.
You know, whereas you find the big locations, London as well, Edinburgh, places like that hold these events. We don't do events, we never have, but they hold it, and people go and they get nothing.
Yeah.
Or it's made up. You know,
Yes.
It's kind of somebody's in the corner throwing stones and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I think it's because with these lesser known locations, nobody's bothered to go and speak to them before.
Yeah, just speak to them normal. They were human at one point. They just had passed on, and their spirit's still here.
I mean, if you think, if you see you live alone and you've not had any visitors or anybody's came to your house for, say, a month, and then somebody turns up at the door just wanting to chat, you want to chat to them. You go, whoa, you've got a month full of gossip to tell them. Do you know what I mean?
You want to talk to them, not be interrogated.
So it's the same kind of thing, you know. Somebody's came to see me. Excellent, you know. I've not spoke to anybody in 250 years, so I've got tons to say.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be here a while, sunshine, because I've got a lot to say to you. But who's to say it's not like that? It's just basic, you know. Instead of trying to put all this scientifics, again, no disrespect, but leave, you know, take the scientific side away from it.
Yeah.
And just let spirit be spirit. Let them go on with it. I was going to say their lives, but you know what? You know what I mean. But I'm going to cover a couple of your TikToks just before we wind up, because I did tell you we'd run for an hour. We're slightly over, but so I hope you've not got any plans.
No, you're good.
There was one TikTok where you talk about the fallen angels. I think this ties in with the heaven and hell concept as well.
Yeah.
So what's your kind of take on it?
With people had seen like fallen angels and stuff like that. Obviously, I got a big response on that, and it's I guess that the entity in my parents' house, it kind of had like this very evil, kind of came out of nowhere, kind of demonic feel, and I feel like it had to have. I mean, this thing is just massive, and it was it made itself known to me. It said hi to me while I was sleeping one day, and the next morning, because it did take off out of my room. Anytime I would appear to or walk into the presence of this thing, it would flee from me, like as if I was protected by like angels and like that. And we had this black lab in his kennel sleeping, and when this thing took off, our black lab started growling, wanting to attack something. My mother gets up and she runs over to the staircase, and she said she could hear something like 300 pounds just rustling around, running around downstairs. The next morning, I wake up and my little sister's like, my back's burning, and I don't know why. So I said, well, come here. Maybe you did something. I lifted her shirt up just kind of to look her over, and she had like hundreds of claw marks up and down her back, and she's like, it burns. I mean, they were all in a straight line, so it's not like she reached back there and scratched it herself and be able to tell. These were just all nice finely scratches in straight lines in every direction. I'm like, this is something evil. I feel this is something that has never lived on Earth in a human form or something.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because I think this is where a lot of people get mixed up. You know, Sarah, my parents, she was scratched way back. We've not long to be starting Greyfriars Kirkyard in Edinburgh. I don't know if you've heard about Greyfriars Kirkyard. In the middle, it's reported to be the most haunted. A kirkyard's another name for a graveyard in Scotland. It's reported to be the most haunted graveyard in the world.
Ooh.
In Edinburgh, we've done quite a lot in it, but it's when people start talking about the whole demon side of it, you know, as you say, the fallen angels. You get the classic movie image, the big battle in heaven, and the angels that rebelled getting cast down and into the fire and what have you. And but it's when people say, well, you know, what is a demon, you know, and I've got a demon in my house. See, well, maybe you've not got a demon. You might have a grumpy spirit.
Very well, a spirit that was
And
very in their life and just died they just had evil in their heart, and it was just a human who, murdered a whole bunch of people because they were mentally ill or something, and they brought that onto the afterlife.
I mean, if you look at some of the serial killers, Gacy, Dahmer, Ted Bundy,
Yeah.
I mean, the list is like that, basically. Britain's the same. We've had our fair share of nutters over here, but, you think, well, these people weren't demonic. Maybe they studied,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, but they weren't actually demons.
Yeah. Like a demonic entity is something that's like never actually fully lived on this earth. It's something from another dimension, and somebody who, like Dahmer and stuff, like he clearly had a bad childhood. He grew up being abused, and he had a fetish for certain things, and he had like a mental disorder, in which I think triggered his murders and stuff like that. And now he's in the afterlife, probably in a loneliness, depression, still feeling what he felt on Earth in the afterlife. And some people, I guess, could say like, well, that's demonic. Well, it's more of a disturbed spirit.
Yeah. So that actually just like a question just popped in my head there, because I heard a thing many years ago with the talk about heaven and hell, and somebody said to me, we create our own hell after we pass. We've created our own hell, so that's where we go. So everybody, I know the typical image of hell is, big lakes of fire and everybody's in there basically, But this individual says, well, we create our own hell. So when we pass over, we go to this place and we're alone for eternity. So you kind of wonder, as you were talking with Dharma there, the other ones, you think, well, when they pass, where are they? I know there's been many ghost shows that says, I remember one particular with John Wayne Gacy. We went to his house and, he'd been there and all the rest of it. Camera footage and walking up the hallway and stuff like that, But you think, well, where are they now?
Yeah. Like, I think they did an investigation like on Dahmer, where after it, I think a paranormal team had went in. I don't know where it was at, but I think it was a guy using a spirit box, and he was channeling Dahmer, and he was asking him questions like, do you regret it? Like, or do you still feel what you felt on Earth, that loneliness, depression, of what you were doing to your victims? And he's like, yeah, I'm lonely, and I still feel what I felt on Earth. And it's like he created his own hell in the afterlife.
And he was kind of stuck there basically. Another one that I say, I've got a list here, but I'll only cover one or two. I was going to ask you about seeing a ghost. You've already, said you seen that entity in the house after the storm, the tornado. It's something we don't get. I think we've had one tornado in Scotland, and
we get them a lot here.
I've seen, on Facebook and stuff like that, another tornado warning and stuff like that, and we've got friends that live in Chicago.
Yeah,
is it Chicago next for? I always get Chicago and San Francisco. I can never remember which one they're in.
Yeah, Chicago's in Illinois.
Chicago, that's where and he Nick Muley, his name is, and he's quite big in the paranormal, and he's put up quite a few posts over the months about, another tornado coming, but I think we've just had one, maybe, that we know about, and it couldn't have been anything major,
Yeah.
Our climate's not hot enough.
It's what?
Our climate isn't hot enough.
Our climate's seemingly not hot. But mind you, not hot enough. But seemingly the last week and a half, we've had a heat wave here, believe it or not, in Scotland. Very rare, actually, over here. So, reincarnation. I've spoken about this before with other people. What's your view on do you believe that we get numerous shots at this, at life, or are we limited?
It's really hard to say, because like even myself, I get drawn to certain time periods where I'm like, I feel very drawn to medieval times. I love crowns. I don't know why. I love swords. I love armor. I love all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I felt like I'm drawn to that sort of time period. Maybe I'm connected to that time period of some sort, or maybe there's an ancestor down my line that was part of like maybe a knight or was a noble person back in the time. That is trying to communicate with me through those objects. I'm not really sure, so it's really hard to say.
But you see, I've got a big draw towards Tudor times, Tudor era. I've always been Henry VIII and his wife and everything. I've always been fascinated by that. I've always been fascinated by America as well. I don't know why.
Yes.
But I've always been fascinated. I've only one complaint about your country, and that is it's too damn big.
Yeah, it's pretty large.
And in the UK, we've got one time zone. That's it. No matter what part we've got one time zone. In America, I think you've got 4 or 5 different ones.
Yeah, we got East, Central, Mountain Time, Pacific Time.
So because I talk to people all over kind of America, and they're on different time zones, and
Yep.
we've been doing this 5 years, and I still lose track.
Yes.
Who's who and where's where.
Yep.
And there was one time I'd actually scheduled a video call with David Espinosa. He's a film director with CRA Entertainment, owns CRA Entertainment, with his part owner, and we do a lot with him. And I scheduled a video call with him, and I think it was like 7 o'clock our time or something. No, it was like 2 in the afternoon. I says, it was 2 in the afternoon, David. Aye, that's fine, buddy. But I got it mixed up, and I video called him, and it was like 7 a.m. in the morning, and he just got up out of his bed, and his hair was out, and he's like, "It's 7 a.m., buddy. You're too early." I thought, "Oh crap, sorry, dear. I'll let you go and do your stuff, and I'll go." It's totally, and I still say to them, I can never remember what the time difference. But the reincarnation. See, I've always had a draw to America. The Tudors, I've been always fascinated with the Tudor era, and I don't know. As you say, I don't know if you're limited to how many times you can come back. But each time you come back, do you bring a little bit of your former self with you?
Yeah, it's really hard because in the comment section I've heard from people say like I felt like they will tell me different time periods that they feel drawn to something from 1,000 years ago to something from the 50s and 60s and then the 20s, and it's like maybe and it's really hard to say like is it our ancestors back through our blood coming through and pulling us, trying to tell us something, or is it something that are we really reincarnated?
It's a hard one because I've got a big draw to Greyfriars, just what I mentioned. I've always had a draw to Greyfriars Kirkyard in Edinburgh. Every time I go to Edinburgh, I always need to go there, even if it's 10 minutes. I always go up and visit. And I spoke to a medium many, many years ago, and I was saying, she says, well, that's because you are buried there. And you were a soldier in a former life. And it was either Jeff or Jeffrey, my name was, she says. And that's for your body that you're buried. That's why you're drawn back there, because that's where you. But it's the old medium scenario. Do you believe them? Do you know? I've interviewed. I've chatted to a few mediums on here, and they are quite. Some of them are genuine people. You know yourself. You've got these other head cases out there that I'm a medium. I can talk to whoever. You name it. I'll talk to Elvis. No bother. I'll get you Elvis on the phone for you and crap like that. But I believe we do come back. And that's why we're drawn to the times.
Yes.
See, I'm a big Tudors man. No, at school, I hated history. I get kicked out of history at school. So it's no if I studied history in school and this was one subject I was really interested in. But it's just the fascination's always been there, and I can't explain why.
Yeah, you can explain it.
And that's what makes it kind of more fascinating, I think. That you can't explain it. Do you know what I mean? But I think one more thing. There are two more things. See, I get these thoughts just pop into my head. I don't know if you do. Well, as a songwriter, you probably do. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, so you know how it feels. Is just they pop into your head and they just don't go away.
Yes.
You know, it could be 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hello. You know, I'm not going to go away until you do something about this. You know.
Yes.
I forgot what I was going to. Most haunted places. You got a TikTok that tells about the most. What in your mind is would you say is the most haunted place in? I was going to say the UK, in the USA.
I haven't been to many places. Obviously, I went to the Bartonville Insane Asylum, which was pretty haunted. My parents' house, which had a lot of activity. I know there's like a lot of other cool places I would like to see. The battlefield of Gettysburg, simply because I've seen like paranormal shows where they've caught like soldiers on camera or cannons being blasted off, and you can hear it at night with all of that commotion going on. So I think that would be a really cool experience. And me being in like Windsor Castle, I think I heard that is haunted, and the Tower of London, which I went through. Obviously, there was a lot of tourists, so I couldn't really like experience anything because there was just so much commotion going on around me and tour guides and stuff like that. But being just in there, you can like, well, why wouldn't this be haunted? It's 1,000 years old. A lot of activities gone through here. A lot of characters have came and gone.
The Tower of London was built in 1062. I think it was built by Edward the Conqueror. Edward the Conqueror. And it's been a stronghold ever since then. And over the years, it's been a royal residence, it's been a prison.
Yes.
You know, it was used for executions. The last execution was 1944, I believe. It was a German spy who parachuted into Britain, and he was captured and he was executed by firing squad in the Tower of London. But obviously, you've got the famous executions: Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard, Thomas More. You got the kind of Henry VIII sort of his lot, and then don't forget you've got Tower Hill right next to it, which was a famous spot for executions. Most of the common kind of criminals, they were taken to Tower Hill. The royals, they were executed. Not that there wasn't very many executions within the tower itself. I think there was only maybe 4 or 5. Majority of everybody went to Tower Hill or Tyburn. But as you walk into it, I found the tower fascinating because you know what's happened there.
Yes. Yeah, you know the history of what's gone on in this place.
And you're walking in the footsteps of where these people walked.
Yes. And I went up to our tour guide told us at the Tower of London, like this door right here is like the oldest door of all of London. I'm like, I put my hand right on it. I'm like, I gotta be one of those people.
That's it. I know exactly what you mean. There's, so this is the original door, and then you start to think, so Traitor's Gate as well.
Yeah.
You think, how many people have passed through this?
Yes, and touched it and stuff like that. I'm like, I gotta put my hand on this. I'm putting my hand on that. I'm touching this, touching that.
A lot of people don't appreciate it. It's like Hampton Court Palace, if you're ever in London, you have to go to Hampton Court Palace. You get the haunted gallery, which is said to be haunted by Catherine Howard, Henry's 5th wife. But when you get into Hampton Court Palace, there's a big archway takes you into the main sort of courtyard, and you're even walking through that, you think Henry VIII came under here because it was Henry's kind of play palace. It was gifted to him by Cardinal Wolsey. And so it turned out to be a kind of play palace sort of thing, where he did all his entertaining and stuff. The amount of times that Henry VIII passed under this actual archway, and it's all the original stone.
Yes, yeah, that was a lot for me to wrap my head around. Like, I'm walking through where people stood 1,000 years ago.
It is. It's just it totally kind of blows your mind. Have you got any plans to come back to the UK?
What's that?
Have you got any plans to come back to the UK?
I would love to. I love history and stuff like that. I would love to go all through Europe and stuff and just explore the castles and explore whatever I can.
You need to come to Scotland then.
Yes. Yeah.
We've got better history than England, but don't tell them. You know, we've got William Wallace, Robert the Bruce, Mary Queen of Scots, all that kind of stuff, but don't tell them. You know, we love that. We've got a lot of English friends, very, very close friends. That's the other thing we like about doing these podcasts. You meet so many people.
Yes.
You know, and I've spoke to people that I would never have dreamed in my life I would speak to. You know, yourself included. I mean, you're quite, you're big in the sort of music field, and see, we lived a wee town in the west of Scotland, and Patty Negri's a good friend of ours. And it sounds like bragging and boasting. It's not meant to be, but my whole point is, I don't know if you've ever watched the Saw films.
Oh, I'm not
The
really.
Jigsaw, time to play a game.
I'm not really sure if I have.
Well, last year I had one of the main characters. You get Jigsaw, he's the main character, but you got another his kind of apprentice is called Detective Hoffman. We had him on the show, and I was talking to Costas Mandalore, his name is. He played a big part in all the Saw films, and so I was talking to. That's the thing. It brings everybody together.
It does. It really does.
And we talk to talk to yourself, film stars, musicians, historic, the lot, and it's great. And it's even though the paranormal. Did you think the paranormal now is more prominent than it was maybe 10, 15 years ago? Say.
For like myself, or
no, just in general. Do you think it's more accepted now?
I think so. I think, especially when you get people like not like myself, not judging anyone and like tell your story. I won't judge you, and giving people a voice, a platform to share their experience. I think with more studies have came out and more investigations and paranormal investigators going out and proving that there is life after death and these places are haunted. There's just hundreds of thousands of stories. I think now people are more open to the paranormal than they were like back then.
I'd say I totally agree with you. Back then, I'd go back maybe 15 years roughly, it was kind of shunned and everybody thought it was a load of baloney basically. But as you said, there's hundreds of thousands of stories. People are going out and people are showing that there is something, there is something there. But they can't. We've been quite fortunate with investigating, over the years. With quite a bit of, I don't know, call it evidence if you want, but we never ever state that it's paranormal. We'll just say, we'll look at every aspect. What could it be? If we can't find an explanation, we'll just say, well, we can't explain it.
Yeah. Yep.
But as you say, there's 100,000 stories out there that people can't explain. And it's usually the same kind of stuff, whether it's cameras being turned off, batteries drained, photographs, EVPs, I think there's too much there for people to ignore now.
Yeah, like you can't deny it. Like you can't just say, oh, it doesn't exist when there's too much evidence and too many people who have experienced it.
And we've all had that kind of personal experience, and as we said way earlier on, a lot of people probably experience, because some people say to me, right, prove to me the paranormal's real. I say, well, I can't. But have you ever had something happen to you in life that you can't explain? You've seen something, heard something, and you just can't explain it? Well, maybe. And you think, well, who's to say that it's no paranormal?
Yeah. Something you can't explain. Something happens. Yep.
And it can be the slightest thing. No doubt, actually, you've seen the ghost shows and it's always something major happening, like a flying headstone or something, whatever it might be, tables spinning in the air and stuff like that. And you try to see, but it can be the slight. I mean, I've been in places, so the rest of the team, and we've just been touched.
Yeah.
You know, we did an investigation last night with a lady who was a guest. It was her first it was her first ever investigation, and she says the back of she got long hair, and she says the back of her hair get touched. Sarah's hair get touched as well.
Wow.
Her brother's backs get touched. I've had my sleeve tugged a couple of times in a grave. You know, silly. And I've said this to people. It could be the slightest little thing.
Oh yeah.
You know? It doesn't need to be a big, you know, fire and brimstone and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know, it's whatever. There's two aspects. It's whatever spirit decides to do. You know, because at the end of the day, it's down to them if they want to talk to us or not, and it's whatever they are capable of doing.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, because there is the theory that, you know, caught a new, somebody's recently passed this term as a kind of new spirit. You know, so they have no. It's like the film Ghost. You remind me of Patrick Swayze, God rest him. You know, where he passes over and he has to learn how to do certain things, move the can. And tell me you've seen the film Ghost.
Yeah. Yes, I have.
You know, he's got to move the can and stuff like that. You know, so well, who's to say it's not like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you got a spirit guide or a family member there that's going to tell you that, well, you can do this or you can do that, and this will give you more energy or whatever. So, you know, I could talk all night about it, but I'll wrap it up because that's an hour and a half I've had you prisoner for. You know what I mean? But what, are you okay for? Do you want to come back again? I'm going to put you in the spot and ask you.
Oh yeah, I am down. I love talking about the paranormal and stuff like that, especially now that I'm more open to it and stuff, and not afraid of sharing my story and what's happened to me and hearing it from others.
I think you've got to be open about it. You know, you say maybe 15 years ago, people would have, oh, well, I'm in a paranormal group, but I'm not going to tell anybody.
Yeah.
You know, because they'll think I'm insane or they'll throw bananas at me or something like that, you know, because I'm walking down the street. But I think now you just be open about it because it's getting more accepted. And it's surprising. I know I said I was going to wind up. This is my last point, promise. But the amount of people who we've spoke to, and they'll say, oh, what is it you do? So, well, paranormal investigators. And they say, I love that kind of thing. Yeah. What is it you do? You know. And know that have you found that as well?
Yeah, people are more open to it now. It's like people are not afraid anymore, and it's not like it was back then where people just kind of looked at that, you're like, oh, you're a weirdo, and now it's more accepted.
It used to be, you know, these American movies, and this isn't sexist in any way, but you would, you know, like the high school movies, you know, you see the kids, and there was always one kind of girl, the goth kind of with the black hair and everything, the Wednesday kind of character.
Yep.
You know, and she would sit in the corner and sit in her own at lunchtime and stuff like that. You know, she's a paranormal person. Don't go near her, you'll get possessed. Yeah. If you go near her, you know, that's how it used to be. Or burn them at the stake. You know, she's paranormal. You know, hang them or whatever. But it is more accepted. So you should be just feel free to just to talk. If people don't want to believe you, you know, then fine.
Yeah, just move on.
I love your attitude. You get the same kind of way of thinking as we do. If I can tell you what happened, you don't need to believe it. You don't believe it. Have a nice day. Yeah, you know. If you do believe it, you want to ask anything more, then fine. Yeah, I'm open to. It's when you get these so-called experts. When you say I'm a paranormal expert, say no, you're not. There's no such thing.
Yeah,
you can't be an expert in a field that changes every day.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and that we don't know the answers to. You know, you can say, well, I'm an expert mechanic or an expert, I don't know, you know, physician, or that could be. You can't say I'm a expert paranormal. No, that really grinds my gears. But we'll wind it up there, though. I'll keep a hold of you after we come off, just for a couple of seconds after we finish. So, where can people find you? Where's the best if they want to listen to you, talk to you, or whatever?
You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Obviously, here on TikTok. I also have my own music YouTube channel. So I'm pretty much on, and I'm on Lemonade now. So I'm pretty much on every platform that I can possibly get on.
Yeah, so go and give her a look at, but you know, go and check her out on our channel, but check out her TikTok channel. And if you do have any, I don't know, any experiences that's happened to you and you've been kind of reluctant to talk about it, then go on to Ashley's channel and just talk about it, basically, you know, and let your feelings out, get off your chest, whatever way you want to explain it. But a big thanks to Ashley for coming in. You will be seeing her again. And we're back on Tuesday night with Sarah and Laura doing their mystery show. And I'm not telling you what it's about because it's a mystery. And that was just what?
Is it not Wednesday night?
Sorry, Wednesday night. I'm on Tuesday night with Matt Barn, the Paranormal Concert. That's how well organised I am, Ashley. I'm getting my nights mixed up. I'm on Tuesday night with Matt Barn, the Paranormal Consultant. They're Wednesday night with their mystery thing. So take care, folks. A big thanks to Ashley, and we'll see you on Tuesday. And you'll be seeing this lady again. All right, take care. Bye. Bye.